it seems that these ancient civilizations, we might think of them as very primitive and not very developed, but we could as well be wrong about that. Like, what I see happening also amongst scientists and people who are doing research on ancient civilizations is that they tend to, dive into this from a linear perspective, like from a linear time perspective, like first this happened, then that happened, and we first had the wheel, and then we had a car, and then we had, but I actually think this is a wrong way of, it's not the right way to look at this. Like, first of all, there is not only one history. Also, when we would like to explore the depths of our own being, like where we came from and how we came to be as a human species, as Homo sapiens, there's just not there's not only one way of looking at this, right? Because we do live in a way in a sort of linear reality here. But in fact, like the reality is more like holographic, right? So that actually means that in a way, things, future and past, are happening all at the same time, and also this present moment. It's like happening all at once. It's only, in this reality that we perceive things from the idea of a past, a present, and a future. But this is actually not right, because reality is holographic and everything is happening at once, and there are many perspectives to one situation. So, along these lines, we also don't have one history, that is set in stone, so to say. Speaking about megaliths and stones, but um, and it could even as well be that, for example, these megalithic sites, they were built by a certain civilization or a group of people or beings, but of course, when they died, these sites could have well be influenced by other groups of people who lived there after them and who might have used these sites for certain purposes. So what I wanted to say with that is, whenever you find traces of ancient civilizations in and around these sites, um, it doesn't mean only one thing. There could be like mingle things from different civilizations that can be found there, and it could as well also mean that they were in different timelines as well. So, just coming back to this idea of reality being holographic and that there is not only one history. Yes, so doing research on these sites might say quite a lot. I mean, this will provide you with a lot of evidences about past generations, past civilizations who have lived there in different areas. But like, what would be interesting for me to know is, like, what are our own origins? It seems I would like to use these sites like in combination with my psychic abilities to be able to do research on our own history, like where we came from as Homo sapiens. And, what I always tend to do is just follow my excitement and what resonates for me. And, many things are coming out these days. Like, this is the age of information, and so many people, diving into different topics also you know, there are loads of people who are busy with this topic as well. But um, yeah, what I'm using is like channeled messages also, and in combination with what comes up for me when I connect to this material, and that might even amplify when I'm on these sites, to be able to um, feel what that would tell me about our own origins. Like, what has always resonated for me is DID that came through channeled Daralenka when he channels Bashar. Bashar is like a Sasani ET being whom he has been channeling for like more over 40 years now. And his story is that we were created, we as humans, we were created by an ET race over 500,000 years ago who came to visit Earth in search of gold, right? So, and they actually had left their own planet and dimension because of catastrophic things happening there. They were not able to survive there anymore. There was something with the atmosphere there. And to heal this, to get this into balance again, they needed gold. But it was not found on their planet. And you can wonder why gold, like if I am diving into that now, like everything has a certain frequency, right? As Einstein already said it, everything in this universe is based on frequency and vibration. So gold has also a certain frequency, and like what the qualities are of gold is that it actually never changes. Like you can put it wherever on any kind, within any kind of circumstance, but gold has the vibration of longevity itself. So you can imagine that gold, can also balance things out. So when I dive into this, in my opinion, this is also what they needed on their planet to be able to survive there at that time. So they didn't have the gold, so they went searching for gold, and they were interdimensional. They were like a highly developed race of extraterrestrial beings who probably, I'm sure they had like time traveling technologies. They probably had UFOs as well, crafts with which they could fly through dimensions, shift to other timelines, to other dimensions. So what Bashar is saying about this is the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings who came from a different planet and a totally different dimension. They came to Earth, and here, that time, 500,000 years ago, they found like indigenous cultures that were called Homo erectus. So already at that time, we did have inhabitants on planet Earth, the Homo erectus. Right, so they saw that there was gold on Earth that they needed, but then this had to be dug for. And they didn't want to do it themselves, so they made up the plan of creating some sort of slave race out of these Homo erectus inhabitants, indigenous people. And they actually inserted their genes. I don't know how they did it, and it was also not done at once, but over a time span of decades, maybe hundreds of years, they, in a sort of way, created out of Homo erectus, Homo sapiens. And that's what we are today. We are Homo sapiens. But they were so highly developed. I actually don't know whether they mated with women from Homo erectus or whether they had some sort of, high advanced technologies that they could just create in a laboratory a new species. This could yeah, and it could have happened as well. And within creating this new species, they might as well, have added some particular genes as well, like particular qualities. Like if you're hybridizing, species and you're highly advanced and you have the technologies for it, of course, you can add some qualities onto that you might need for the species that you're creating. So in this way, they also, inserted into the genetic material the fascination for gold, because they wanted, you know, um, the Homo sapiens to do that, to search for gold, to dig for gold for them. So, of course, when you insert a quality like that, like a total obsession and fascination for gold, which we do still have today, actually, then, it could serve you, of course. And what they actually also introduced that time is a sort of admiration for God, a godlike being, like a total admiration for them, probably because they were also taller than Homo erectus and the Homo sapiens that they created. You see, like images that are dating far back in time, and on these images you see these huge giant beings who are as tall as the trees, and beneath them there is probably standing Homo sapiens who is only like the size we are today. So you can imagine if these kind of beings who are coming from the sky, like the sky people, and this is also found back in many traditions all over our planet, like in many folklore traditions. There are many names for that's translated into the gods, the angels, the people from the sky, the lights from the sky. And this is probably, these are probably the Anunnaki. Like Bashar is even saying that the Elohim that is talked about loads of in the Bible, like for the biggest part, when the Bible talks about the Elohim, for 80%, this is probably what they probably meant by this is the Anunnaki beings. They were the indigenous people from that time. They were seeing them as gods. And just to go back to this genetic alteration, they probably also inserted that into Homo sapiens, like the total admiration and the idea of religion. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had that. Like, like religion we have today, like believing in a god or gods, just being in awe of them. We probably wouldn't have had that idea of religion as we know it today. We would more have like an animistic relationship with nature, with our environment, but not in the way that it is today with religions all over the world. So, but it was deliberately done, right? So we would be their slaves who were searching for gold. But through time, and I'm speaking like 500 to 300,000 years ago, but I think also that what I want to say, like through time, the influence that they had on us diminished. And yesterday I was hearing a lecture, I'm not sure from whom it was, but like the exodus out of Egypt, that time, people were saved. Like Moses is going to the Mount Sinai here, and there he gets the 10 Commandments. what Bashar is saying about this is that actually Moses on that mount was went on board of a spacecraft, and there the ETs were probably the Anunnaki. They, you know, telepathically gave him the Ten Commandments. But he was only allowed to remember a small part of what was all given to him. Like many things, they made him forget that. They made him only remember the things that he needed to say to the people he was bringing to Israel, right? So yeah, like if you go back to these sites, it seems that still people who are living there, they, in their folklore, they have some signs of all these things happening. And also in the Bible, of course, in the Bible it was said that on Mount Sinai, Moses was speaking to God, and that God gave him the Ten Commandments. Right. But then also over time, these Ten Commandments were interpreted in a wrong way. So the first commandment is something like, I am God and I am the only God, and there shall be no other gods. But according to Bashar, it was, somewhat different. They were actually saying in the first commandment that everything there is God, and therefore there is only God in everything you see. There are no other gods. God is everything, and it is in everything you see. It's in you, it's in me, it's in the trees around. It's like in everything you can possibly perceive. So, but we all know what, the misinterpretation of these commandments, what it led to. Right, so just to go back to, the creation of humankind, probably by the Anunnaki. Well, it could be so interesting and exciting to find more evidence of that, right? And what I was also wanted to go along these lines is what I was saying in the beginning of the talk, like, there is not only one history. So what resonates a lot for me is what Bashar is saying. Once we dive into this, and like if we have, maybe within a decade or so, if we have open contact with extraterrestrial races and other beings, we will also find our real history, like where we came from. And as I said, there is not only one history, but we will take the history that allows us for being the beings that we prefer to be. So, like if you can imagine what kind of being you would like to be, you can also just resonate with that reality and that timeline, and that particular timeline that allows us to be the beings, the Homo Sapiens that we truly prefer to be. Then there is also a history connected to that, and this will find evidence of. This will become our true history. So that's all like very exciting material. So yeah, this is what I've been diving into the last weeks or so, and this is what is so exciting to me. I don't know why, because sometimes I start to think, okay, why am I interested in all of this? And what I also found is that when I start talking to people, like there are not many people who are very interested in this. And why am I interested in all these things? I don't know, but I'm just following my excitement, and so far I'm having so much fun. Okay, thank you for listening. Bye.